Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, you can sing. The Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, I used to think that I had to. I used to think that I should. The scripture told me that I had to be good. Now I love 'cause I want to. I love because I'm free. Blinded by the Spirit. Oh Lord, yeah. The Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, I don't need any prodding. I don't need any love. I want to sing with all my heart. 'Cause God is my all and all. I let go of my burden. Loving God has set me free. Blinded by the Spirit. Oh Lord, yeah. The Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Oh, I thought it was my duty. I thought it was my job. Somewhere I believed that loving God would be hard. But loving God is ecstasy. Loving God has made me free. Blinded by the Spirit. Oh Lord, yeah. The Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Yes, it is. Oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Oh.
Ah. Yeah, it's upon me, it's in me, it's as me, it's through me, it's by me. Woo! Yeah, sometimes we feel it on, like, I love this song because it's on us whether we're, yeah. We sing those kind of songs. Sometimes we sing them as a revelation, like, oh, the Spirit of God is upon me. Then sometimes we sing it so that we can become aware of what's happening. I love it. I think it's Rabbi Shapiro who said, God's what's happening now. I mean, he said, how do I define God? God's what's happening now. And it's happening. And also, it's upon us because it's everywhere. The kingdom of God is within us, but that word could have also been translated as among us. So it's not just in us, it's everywhere, and we have our connection within, but we can also start to feel it like the wind. Like there's air, we're in air. Have you noticed? We breathe still. Oh, by the way, you really appreciate air when you're at 13,000 feet in Cusco. Just saying. But we don't notice it until there's a breeze. So sometimes the Spirit of God is upon us. Is like we see something happening that's miraculous, or we feel inspired, and it's that movement that is so not only encouraging, it's rewarding, nurturing. And one of the ways to feel it more often is to just be in a presence where other people are feeling it. That's why worship still works. Otherwise, we could all just be on our bed meditating and then watch a video. I've done that myself, but I also notice the difference. Today, we're starting a series for this month on the art of abundance, and I'm still, I must have liked it so much I just totally closed and shut this puppy down. Here we go. I know I have a talk. Yeah, October, the art of abundance. Now, it's an art, but I wanted to just differentiate between abundance and prosperity, which is what my good friend Dennis Merritt Jones does in this book at the very beginning. See, abundance is an attribute of God. Anybody have a problem with God? The word God, can I use it? It's like I'm asking permission. Can I cuss or something, I just saw one person has a little issue, but maybe I've conditioned people, because we can sometimes hear a word and hear it from our past, but I want to define what I mean by God. I mean the absolute everything that infuses everything, that is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, but it's very difficult to get that out in a sentence, so I abbreviated it to something that I could spell and pronounce: God. That's what I mean. I don't mean guy in the sky pointing to humanity. So I hope that helps when I use the word. But abundance is an attribute of the universe, or that universal principle, that love intelligence, or God. It is an attribute because if nature or manifest reality is the face of God, and we look at manifest reality, it's abundant. How many of you went to school and were amazed that there were millions and billions of stars in our galaxy? How many of you were like, wow, now there's millions and billions of galaxies? The farther we go out into space, the more galaxies we experience. There's no lack of stuff in the universe. No lack. And that's only on this plane of existence. Theorists say that there's probably multiple universes. So we're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Plus, here's an example of abundance that we got from a wonderful friend of ours that, who will go nameless because he didn't give me permission to tell his story. But we sent out the Friday email about abundance, and he says, yes, the abundance. I'm so glad you're teaching it. It really helped me many years ago. And if people really want to know about abundance, they can come and help me rake leaves in a month. And they'll know abundance. Nature is abundant. It's just the way it is. Now, it shows up in people's lives as prosperity, or can. It doesn't have to. Abundance shows up in our lives, and it can show up as prosperity. Now, prosperity is defined as flourishing or thriving. So it's a condition, it's a situation, it's a way of experiencing things. And it's always relative to the beholder. People have different definitions of thriving. They have different definitions of flourishing. I went to Kenya many, many years ago, and to the Maasai, abundance was cows. The more cows, the more abundant, the more prosperous you were. For my husband, when I first met him, his definition of prosperity, prosperity, thriving, was to have a big stack of unread books by his bedside. He didn't want to ever get low. He got kind of panicky when there's only one or two books, because what if he ran out? Like, we got to replace it. I got to go to my book dealer. It's like, he got kind of frantic. But so stop in a minute. Just stop. Just take a minute. Just take a moment. Check inside. What would be your definition of thriving? What would be your definition of flourishing? And however that shows up for you, that's how universal abundance wants to be expressed in you. Many years ago, I used to take a weekend, a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, to teach some of the principles I want to teach during this month. And people would go away to Rainbow Lodge, and there'd be about anywhere between 35 to 50 people, because we used to, how many of you were there when we used to cram 50 people into into Rainbow Lodge, that big room, and that's when you could sit real close together, and I would have people start out with naming what their idea of flourishing or thriving would be. We called it naming your good, but we asked them to use their heart, because people came because I made a list. This is what I believe. I'm not sure that's true. I didn't ask everybody. But it seemed like people signed up for that workshop because it had money in the title. And money's such a hook. Make more money. Make more money easy. Easily make more money. But it was a bait and switch. Because I hooked them with money, and then they checked into their heart, and their heart didn't ask for money. Seldom. Out of 50 people, maybe 2 people had an idea of thriving or flourishing that actually had to do with money. It had to do with time or enjoyment or freedom or a new home, and all sorts of things. So check inside. If I said, what does your heart long for so that you can thrive and flourish? What does your heart say? And really honor that. Take that in. Whatever it is, if it's your good, it's good. I will say, though, that oftentimes people keep themselves from having that kind of life, that kind of experience, and then they use money as an excuse. I want more time, but I have to work all these jobs. Or I'd like to go on vacation, but I don't have the money. So I will say that when it comes to money, not all the time, but often, people allow themselves to have as much good as they have in their bank account at the current moment. So this is what I have, so this is how much good I can have. What can I do with this? Whereas the way creation works is if you choose to accept your greater good, then money is the effect, not the cause, and it has to expand to the desire needed. But we get it kind of backwards. Now, there's so much I could say about this. So I have been studying this for the last 40 years and using myself as a petri dish, trying everything out that I could. I think in my library I have every printed prosperity book there is. It takes up a whole section of my library. I've read it all. I can get one book and it has one good idea in it, but I got the good idea. I've applied, and there's more than I can talk about in five weeks. So there will be more opportunities for you to glean ideas. My thoughts to sleep on for October will be about just helpful little hints that I've picked up along the way. Hopefully there will be a nugget in there. Our Wednesday faith lift will be about that. Little nuggets here and there. We're really lucky that we've got such a great book as a study book for those that you like to read and have markers. We have abundant circles after the second service, and also Abigail is running one at 5:30 for all of you that are online and all over all over. We get people from all over. So we would love to have you participate in an abundant circle where you get to talk about the principles that are in here. And if you haven't read the book, that's okay. Just follow along. You might get something through osmosis. Just, oh, wow, that person said that, and that's exactly what I needed to hear. But for me, what I will do on Sundays is give you bullet points, things that I think will make a difference, that can start you in the process or on the process of recognizing who you are in relationship to this thing called abundance, and how prosperity, which is to flourish and to thrive, can start to show up in your life. Bullet points. First one. First bullet point. Persist. Persistence. You know, instead of what was that called? Tradition. Fiddler on the prosperity roof. It's persistence. Emma Curtis Hopkins said that persistent thought about prosperity and how prosperity is brought to us will make you a magnet for prosperity. That's the truth. Persistence, not like I heard a talk once. I read a book. I tried something. I tried everything. I was persistent. I used to say that we were lower middle class. We weren't lower middle class. We were freaking poor. Poor. It's poor when you can't afford clothes for your kids. It's poor when you can't have new shoes. And I had holes in my shoes. I was so grateful that I was part of the child labor for agriculture. I started working at 13 picking beans, and it allowed me to have clothes and school supplies because it wasn't in the budget for our family. And I picked beans up through high school. Also discovered that boys pick beans, so it wasn't so bad. I was thinking, Kathianne, you didn't suffer that much. Anyway, and they took their shirts off. Anyway, woohoo! The things that flash through your mind at times, you know, it's like picking beans. Poor little me, no. And until I could start babysitting, and then I babysat. I made my money through college. And, after that, something happened in me, and I know what it was, but I think I need to write a book. Something happened so that I knew that I did not want to follow in my parents' footsteps. I did not want to continue what they had accepted. I never made them wrong. I just didn't want that. So when I was introduced to a center like this in Eugene, and they actually said that you could change the trajectory of your life by changing your thought, I was all in. And I bought every book. I got a practitioner and had them pray for me. I had the minister pray for me. I prayed myself, and I worked everything that was given to me. And in 1 year, I got a new job, which gave me a 65% increase in salary. I became my own boss because I didn't want to be bossed around anymore. I had an assistant. I've had an assistant since I've been 24. Well, I can't spell and I can't type and I have no skills, so it's good to have an assistant. I had an expense account that paid for my car, my gas, my insurance, and most of my meals. I went from living in Springfield, and you'd have to know, Andrea's giggling, I was on the wrong side of the river, let's just say that, to the South Eugene Hills with a view over the valley and a brand new, nice car. Not the Corvette that I was going to get, but a nice car in the driveway. All in the very short period of time. And one of the women that was at that center came to visit me once, and she said, "Oh my God, you've been working this thing." Yeah. Yeah, I worked it. Persistence. I didn't read one book. I didn't read one book. I didn't do one affirmation. I didn't do one prayer. I didn't ask for one prayer. I didn't do one, no, I persisted. Persistence. If you want to thrive and flourish, and no matter where you are, it could be that you're thriving and flourishing. But you know what? The tree didn't say, oh, enough leaves. Next year, I'll hold back a little. Life flourishes and thrives. So if you'd like to flourish and to thrive, persist. Now I know that God is my source, and now I do very little. I just sort of open up and stuff happens because I've already got the consciousness. It took me almost as many years to get the consciousness of having a supportive and satisfying and fulfilling relationship with a primary relationship. That took a lot of work. I didn't do just one prayer. I did everything until finally something clicked and I could actually accept the kind of relationship that I have with Tim now. Persistence. Now I'm persisting in wanting to be a healer of physical ailments, because I've watched too many of my friends not continue. And I know about healing, and sometimes I can do it. Sometimes something takes me over, and I say a word, and it's done. Sometimes my hands get hot with fire, and all of a sudden I can touch somebody and they're healed. But it's not consistent. But I'm going to persist until I feel good about that. So whatever your idea of flourishing is, whether it's time or energy or health or relationships or creativity or opportunity, don't just, I did a prayer. What's my affirmation? You do it once or twice. Persist until something will click in you, and then it all unfolds easily. You've heard about people that worked for a long time and then they're overnight sensations. It's sort of this way. We do the inner work, and then something. So during this 5 months, 5 weeks, it's going to seem like a month. Continue. Make this the beginning of a way of life. The beginning of a shift. The next thing that I want to share with you is, I'm going to shift things around a little bit. I'm going to share with you that, I'm not going to go back. That there's actually a shortcut to having the life that you want, having the life of thriving, of flourishing. But first, you might have to do everything else. I did everything. I did the treasure maps. I did the vision boards. I did the affirmations. I prayed to receive unexpected money. I went to places that made me feel uncomfortable, like I don't deserve to be here. They'll know that I don't have the money to come to this place. All of those sorts of things that I was told to do. I did them, and I think that every little gimmick, every little one of those things helps to shift consciousness. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it's kind of unwieldy. Let's go back to treasure maps. I did a treasure map when I was still in Eugene. And it was such a great treasure map because I made it very artistic, and I loved it, and I framed it, and I carried it around with me. Went with me everywhere. And one of the things that I wanted was a certain type of body, and I found this body that I loved. Oh my goodness, I love that body, and I put that on my treasure map. And about 10 years later, I'm on Santorini, and I look down, and I have the bathing suit. Not the body, just the bathing suit. Now, it was a very odd bathing suit, and how I found that bathing suit 8 or 9 years later, I don't know. I didn't even know that I was probably drawn to that bathing suit. That bathing suit kept thinking, I've got to get to her because she's seen me every single day. And somehow I attracted that bathing suit. And I'm looking down going, no. Another thing that happened is I had that same treasure map up in my bedroom, and my stepson at the time, Mark, came in. He goes, oh, yeah, because I put this thing about that made it, this couple, and they're looking into each other's eyes, and it's really wonderful. Yeah, that looks just like Dad. I had married somebody that looked just like the picture. And I'd said, but no baggage. That would have been really wonderful. So, sometimes the gimmicks backfire. But do try them. But so I want to give you the shortcut. The shortcut. This is what I use now, and I encourage you to do it, and I encourage you to persist in doing it. And that is to realize and contemplate that the universe is an expansive expression of itself, and therefore it is abundant. Therefore you are abundant. You are abundant. You are abundant. Right now, without doing anything, just as you are, how many of you are alive? You're abundant. If you're alive, you have all the attributes of the living Spirit Almighty already within you. And one of the attributes of the living Spirit Almighty is abundance. And to contemplate that and live from that means that you give that out, and the law of compensation says that as you give out, you do receive. See, Mandy in her story about giving $500, she gave it because she was abundant. If she knows she's abundant, she must attract it. But a lot of us want to get the goodies, and then I'll be abundant. I want the trappings, I want the evidence, and then I'll be abundant. No. Be abundant, and you will attract to you all of those things. So all of those gimmicks, the treasure map and the affirmations and going in places that I felt uncomfortable, like beyond Wendy's, made me feel abundant and forced me into this experience. And when you have the experience, you must have evidence of that experience. That's the shortcut. The takeaway is that God realized must produce a result. God realized must produce a result. To realize that life that you live is an abundant life. In John is it's a whole class, but I'm going to give you just one thing that I believe. I believe that it is the evolution of this man named Yahshua ben Joseph moving into the awareness that he was the Christ. And so sometimes he would speak as the Christ. And as the Christ, he said, I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And Jesus is not the exception. Jesus is an example. And so the Christ within you says, the Christ within you, that which incarnated as you, that which was so excited to create in a new way. You know what? I've never had a Mandy, so I'm going to be Mandy. I've never had any Dawn. Let's do a Dawn. Oh my God, wow, this is so exciting. And it incarnated and it said, guess what? I've come so that this personality might have life and have it more abundantly. Not might have life, and I'll dole it out in small pieces. To contemplate that is to shift. Now, when the shift starts happening, this is my third point, my third bullet point, is know how you block that abundance from showing up. And to know that can be extremely powerful. Because if it is the nature of life to express, and it is not expressing in some way, shape, or form in your life, it might be that you have a belief, a concept, or a habit that is keeping you from that expression. Because if Jesus could say, also in John, that to not hide your light under a bushel, the bushel is your set of beliefs that says, I can't shine here. I can't be that expressive. I can't have that much good. The Gospel of Thomas said, what is within you will save you, but you got to let it out. And redefine yourself. I've been taking riding lessons for almost 2 years on a new horse that I'm riding, and he's a very, very good horse. He's very subtle, like very subtle. I'm used to like yanking, like the old, like no, he's subtle, and he gets angry if I'm just too, yippee-ki-yay. Anyway, and so I've prayed for confidence, and I'm more confident. I've prayed to be a better and better rider, and I noticed that I'm always a better and better rider. And I was driving to my lesson yesterday, and I thought, why am I dinking around with this? I'm going to go to a horse show. I would like to be great. I'd like to be a great rider. There's a part of me, I know you're going to be shocked. There's a part of me that's ambitious. And I wanted to win. If I'm going to go down there and pay, why not get a ribbon like blue? I've got pinks and yellows and whites. How about a blue ribbon? And so I just thought, well, you've been telling yourself that you're getting to be a better rider, but what's inside of you, Kathianne, is an excellent rider. What's inside of you is an excellent rider. Why? Because God inside you knows how to ride. So I said that. And I affirmed that. It's like, I got it. And yesterday was one of the best rides I've ever had. I thought a thing and he did it. And even the trainer said, boy, you've really improved. What's going on? It's like, I don't want to talk. I was like I don't want to talk about it, might jinx it. But really, I've got to talk about it. Because I've got to share that when you shift, things shift. It's sometimes so subtle and so easy, but then we make it complicated. How do you define yourself? What do you say to yourself all the time? I was listening to someone who on a podcast, and she was talking about how she started this company, and she's got all these things to do, and she's got a family, and she's got a husband, and she's got all of these things, and she was sitting in the kitchen listening to herself, and she said, you know what? I'm just talking about how overwhelmed I am. I'm always talking about how overwhelmed I am. If I'm always talking about how overwhelmed I am, I'm just always going to be overwhelmed. There's never going to be enough time to do anything because I'm so overwhelmed. And she said, I'm just stopping it. And she stopped it. And then she started to affirm how time was her friend and how time expanded, which is something similar to what I had to do because I had felt that experience as well. And she said it didn't happen right away, but by her starting to shift how she saw things, things shifted. I told you that I was made more money. Well, yeah, that's true. But at the end of the day, I still had to pay my bills, and not the end of the month. At the end of the month, I still paid my bills, and I'd pay all my bills, and for some reason, I still had no money at the end of the month. It's like, I remember having that epiphany. I'm in the same place I was before I made money. I still have no money. This is before we had credit cards. I did start having credit cards as soon as I could. I was one of the first, my generation was one of the first to be able to have a credit card on her own without a man signing. I signed up right away. And you know what, $200. This is what we trust you with, little lady. And I got that I was broke because broke was familiar. I knew how to do broke. I knew how to eke by. I knew that I could go to my grandparents and get food out of their freezer. I didn't steal it, by the way. That sounded so bad. No, Granny, this is just my big stomach. Jeez. I changed it from then. I started to affirm that I always have money in my checking account. I always have money in my checking account. I always have money in my checking account. And pretty soon, I just kept getting more and more money. Now, it didn't turn around that week or that month or even that year, but gradually, I started just having surplus. Surplus was now normal because that was my new theme, my new way of wanting to thrive. It's not like buying more, but if I wanted it, I was going to be able to pay for it. And now if I want it, I can pay for it. I have enough there's always enough. And I didn't have to work at it. There was no budgeting involved, by the way. You shift your consciousness and you naturally budget. You shift your consciousness and you naturally change your diet. You shift your consciousness and you naturally interact with others in a different way. The takeaway is that it's in every one of us to be wise. That's a song by David Pomeranz. Did you ever sing that? Did you sing It's in Every One of Us? It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. It's in every one of us without ever asking why. It's in every one of us by and by. It's within us. We are abundant, and there is a wisdom within us that wants to be activated by our attention and our awareness and our persistence so that we can naturally flourish and thrive. It's not something we acquire. It's not something that we earn. It's not something that we deserve. It's in us. Now, these principles have already been given. They've been talked about in every religion that I've ever studied. And it's those people who've applied them that get the benefit of them. And what I would love for us as an organization, it's to not just thrive for us, but to share it with our family, our friends, and others. To make a difference in the world so that people are inspired by, wow, how'd you change your life? Instead of that one friend of mine in Eugene going, whoa, you really work the principles, like why don't you? Anyway. But also so that we can do things like Mandy. Mandy is supporting causes that she thinks will make a difference in the world. I am similar. I do environmental, environmental agency sends me a request and I'm like, okay, here's a check. Because we get to support, because we get to live from the overflow. And I want all of us to be able to do that. So let's just know that here and now, we have everything within us to thrive, to do well, to flourish, to prosper. But in nature, especially with vegetation, the thriving is about producing more than enough so that others can partake. The apple tree doesn't need those apples. The pumpkin doesn't need those seeds. Nature flourishes for the benefit of nature. And we can flourish for the benefit of others. This is the way of things. I sound like the Mandalorian. This is the way. This is the way. And so it is.